post-study work visa is an important thing for Britain. University of Birmingham is the third most targeted university in the UK by graduate employers. We have a genuinely beautiful campus. We've got the best of both worlds, and it's a truly beautiful place to come to.
We have seen a sector like ourselves, the international education sector, often gets meddled into word politics. Do you think we'll see a day in the future where our sector is free of word politics?
The UK does really welcome students from across the piece, and there are jobs and opportunities available for people both in the UK and elsewhere with a high quality degree from a great British university.
What do you think about India's emergence as a global talent hub in the last few years? Thank you, Professor, for joining us today. Absolutely enjoyed having you in office. Glad that you started the trip with us. I'm going to dive right in and ask you the first question, which I think everybody in the room, everybody who's going to watch this podcast really wants to hear from you. What do you think about India's emergence as a global talent hub in the last few years?
Well, listen, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's a real pleasure to be here in Delhi. I always love coming, actually, and so it's great to be here. I mean, India's emergence over the last few years and more has been astonishing. You've got great quality students. You've got great school, particularly emphasis on STEM and maths education is something that is really, really impressive. And you can see that in the industries that develop. I mean, not just around Bangalore, but obviously the range and breadth of the technical capabilities of India are really impressive. And I think we all look with envy.
Just as a follow-up to that, and we've been building this company for the last 7 years now, we have realized that the set of people who wanted to move from India to the UK to work in the UK industries for a fair bit and also study in most of your universities, while they were primarily STEM for the first couple of years, in the last few years, we have seen them do all kinds of courses. It's a massive long tail, everything in liberal arts. We've had people go to Scotland and pursue photosynthesis as well. We've had people pursue acting, music, literature. So, and these are things that the UK has always been very popular. So do you think the UK authorities, education authorities, the government should also think about welcoming people from these backgrounds and building out policies for them to stay on and kind of do more work in the UK?
Well, of course we do. And I think, as you say, one of the things that UK universities have is a huge range of skills and expertise. And the education we provide is across the piece. We have students from India studying microbiology. We have students studying computer science, obviously, will surprise you, business management, but also, as you say, liberal arts and some of the really quite small numbers, but who are very excited to come and learn. And you see this, you tend to see this as countries become more developed, then students will take subjects because they're really interested in them rather than just for other reasons. So yes, of course, I think the UK does really welcome students from across the piece. And there are jobs and opportunities available for people both in the UK and elsewhere with a high quality degree from a great British university.
And Professor, because you mentioned STEM, because you mentioned tech, and because you mentioned Bangalore and all things similar, I was reminded of at least every single time I enter Heathrow, I see a wave of billboards that talk about the UK tech visa, the talent mobility visa, the fact that tech workers need to be in the UK. And it seems that the country really wants to welcome its tech workers from all over, not just India, from all emerging economies. How do you think, and because you've been doing this for a long while, how do you think this has really changed from the 2000s, the early 2010s? And I have seen that change in the last 4 years, and we've also been witness to whatever is happening in the last 6 to 8 months. Do you think there's a possibility that we might go back to the 2010s, or do you think the change that we saw in the last 3-4 years, that's going to remain?
Well, I think the big thing that happened in Britain was when we left the European Union. And what happened then is that we rather than closing to the world, we opened up to the world. And it's really important for us that we can attract the brightest and the best people from around the world to come and study and work in Britain. So I think this is a long-term change. And it might not have been what everybody expected as a result of leaving the EU, but it's absolutely what's happening. And we really, people in Britain, British government, despite what you might hear, is really keen to get and attract the brightest and the best people from around the world to come and study and live in the UK.
That's very interesting you say that, and I'm going to pick up right where you left it. You said the British government and its people really want to have the best people from across the world come and study and live in the UK. Do they also want them to work in the UK for a fair bit? Because that's what I can at least say that as a company which is going to send about 10,000 plus students into the UK this year, we know that students really want to work there for a couple of years, pay off their education loans, and then come back probably to India or go to the US, work in the Middle East or something like that. But they at least want a couple of years of experience. And I think the post-study work visa alluded to that, and I think it was taking care of that. So do you think the British government will continue to, or most universities in fact as well, they will continue to welcome students to work in the country for a couple of years as well?
Yeah, I really do. The post-study work visa is absolutely an important part of the offer, and it is understood at the highest levels of government that the post-study work visa is an important thing for Britain, not just for universities, but in terms of keeping and attracting people to come and work with us. And then, of course, many people who have a post-study work visa can get the global talent visa afterwards as well, or a visa associated with a well-paying job. So, many people, as you say, want to come and study in the UK, live in the UK for a little bit, and then go elsewhere. But also, there are opportunities for people to live and work and stay in the UK for much longer. So those are really great opportunities. At Birmingham, we've got a great range of students. The upper quartile of our students typically will earn about £55,000 from many of our subjects, and that's a really attractive offer. But then, of course, we've got a very strong relationship with Tesco, who have run all their global operations in Bangalore, and they are desperate to get highly qualified students who want to go and stay in Bangalore, because, of course, Bangalore is full of tech companies. You don't think of Tesco, which is the biggest British supermarket. If you're working in Bangalore, you don't think of going to work for Tesco. You want to go and work for one of the better-known companies like Infosys. But they are really keen that they work with us in Birmingham to attract Indian students who want to go back and work in India after they graduate or after some years after graduation. So the opportunities are really huge.
In fact, I think I'm very happy that you mentioned this, and these relationships is what we need to speak more about when we talk about Indian students in the UK universities in India. These relationships form the absolute bedrock fundamentals of what this is going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. In fact, I've spent the last few months reading up the FTA that both our countries are supposed to sign, which is not yet signed. Every time we come very close to signing it, and then something happens. But I think if the FTA gets signed, I think it's definitely going to be a new start to the relationship that both the countries have been trying to build out for the last decade. So everything that you said was music to my ears, and I think it's going to be music to the ears of everybody who's going to listen in on this podcast as well.
Yeah, and before we finish that, I should say that the University of Birmingham, and I'm not just talking about Birmingham, but the University of Birmingham is the third most targeted university in the UK by graduate employers.
Wow,
and that's not
I didn't
just,
know that.
Yeah, it is. It's so. We're a big university and we're a very well regarded university. So it's a great place if you want to come to get a job afterwards.
No, I didn't know about the fact, but my co-founder Digvijay, who's in the room with me right now, I think we came to the campus a couple of years back and we had absolute fun. So we could clearly see the sheer grandiose with which it is built. We could see it is truly international when you kind of walk across the corridors, and looking forward to accept your invitation and be there again, hopefully this year.
Of course, what your listeners might not know is we have a genuinely beautiful campus. So Birmingham is really unusual in that we have a large green campus with our own accommodation, with all of the academic facilities and sports facilities you'd expect in the city. So you can get great campuses outside cities, or you can have a city university, but we've got the best of both worlds, and it's a truly beautiful place to come to.
Very interesting you say that, Professor. In fact, I'm going to take a detour, and since you mentioned this, you've had so much noise around students struggling with accommodation in the UK over the last 12 to 18 months. There are challenges that people have faced around accommodation once they graduate, but even students who are going into the program, we've not been able to get because dorm rooms are mostly built out for the undergraduate students, the postgraduate students, who are a large volume of the people who come into the universities from India at least. They seem to always run into these challenges. So do you think it is the universities who need to take a higher stand and partner with large accommodation players and take care of this? Or do you think you would rather give a clarion call and have third-party players build this out for yourselves?
Well, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm not going to answer it immediately because international students coming to study at Birmingham are guaranteed a place in a university or a partner's residence. So
across all programs, undergraduate and postgraduate.
Undergraduate and postgraduate. So
amazing.
If people come to the University of Birmingham will not face those challenges. But we have a large number of our own spaces and we do work with private partners around the city. Birmingham's got a great range of accommodation. And then, of course, if people don't want to live with us, then there's lots of places around in local houses if they prefer to do that.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that there was, in some sense, we as Indians like to call that guaranteed. So there's guaranteed accommodation. So if somebody is actually going to Birmingham, they're going to be in your university, they don't need to worry about accommodation. They're secured and they can focus more on their studies and doing well and getting a job at the end of it than thinking about smaller things like these.
Exactly right. And the accommodation covers all their bills and everything as well. So, we do give an accommodation guarantee to people. So, as you said, they don't need to worry about that.
And Professor, because we've taken a turn around talking more about University of Birmingham, maybe would love to kind of at this juncture ask you, does the university really think differently when it comes to trying out new programs that students are interested in? Because we have seen that the future of education, of course, is going to look very different from where we are today. There are online universities. There are short-term programs all around the world, in fact, not just in the UK, who say that I'm going to skill you in ABC, I'm going to skill you in XYZ, and that's going to get you a job. So do you see universities like yourselves who, of course, have the legacy and the heritage and like it's so amazing, you go there, you feel great, you want to study there, but do you see also a wide-ranging curriculum change across programs so that students are more ready for the tomorrow that we're kind of really sitting in right now?
Yes, of course. I think it's really important that you offer things that people want to study, not the things that you want to teach them. And we really do that. So we talked about the humanities earlier.
Yes.
We've seen over the years, most British universities have seen over the years, a reduction in the number of students who want to study English or history or single subjects like that. So we've just started a new program in digital media and communications, and that's really popular because it's speaking to the kind of skills and interests that students have now rather than they might have had 20 or 30 years ago. Or another nice example is we have a great collaborative relationship with IIT Madras in Chennai, where we offer a joint master's program, and they spend half the time in Chennai, half the time at the University of Birmingham, and we're just about to expand that into other programs as well. So, yeah, we think curriculum reform and design is really important. The only thing I would say is that we also believe very strongly that students need to have face-to-face contact, because we're not an online university.
100%.
We do online teaching, but if a student comes to the University of Birmingham, all their classes are online. They're not. We don't do hybrid classes where you'll be sitting in your bedroom on Zoom. It's really important that you're with people because that's where you get a lot of your education.
No, I believe in that as well. And I really believe what you can learn by having peers around yourselves is like absolutely incomparable. But just a follow-up to that, as you spoke about this program around digital media and communication, so would you see a large-scale employer coming and partnering with you for a program like this? Say, for example, tomorrow, this program being run not just by University of Birmingham, but by University of Birmingham and Netflix together, and students being guaranteed at least a job interview. That, hey, if you do really well in this program, you get a shot at a Netflix or an Amazon Prime or something of that sort. Do you see this amalgamation of higher education ecosystem and large-scale employers?
It's a great question. We don't have that in that program, for example, but it's certainly something we can explore. And we do some degrees in collaboration with companies. So we do a degree apprenticeship in collaboration with Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
We do accounting degrees in collaboration with the big accounting firms.
Okay.
So there's no barrier to us doing that, but we don't currently have that. But I'll take it away. In fact, the digital media and communications program was developed in collaboration with one of our colleague, a friend of the university's really, who's a theatre entrepreneur.
Nice.
And so a lot of the thinking was developed by industry, but we don't have an industry partner in that case.
No, this is our shot at getting FaceTime with you, and people like yourselves are the change makers. So hence floated this idea. But just kind of go back. Are you saying the folks who are going through the accounting program, they will get a shot at one of these big fours as well?
Well, what we have is there are some programs where students are recruited onto a program in collaboration with KPMG.
Oh wow!
And so that's the way that works, rather than anybody who does an accounting degree has a guaranteed job. But as I said earlier, we have really close relationships with employers.
I think that's very good to hear. And a lot of people, there are of course people, as I understand from you, who are say working in a KPMG offshore office here, and they might kind of go and do a degree in Birmingham and alongside say that, hey, I'm going to walk out with a guaranteed job. There are also going to be people who are going to the UK with the expectation that can this university get me a job or at least an interview with one of these firms that I dream to work at. And I think as we move forward, the same KPMG coming in and saying that, hey, if you're graduating from University of Birmingham, where I'm also running some of these programs, I can at least give you an interview. I think things like these, whether it is in accounting or digital media and communications or engineering or multiple apprenticeship programs as well, I think that can really add a lot of value.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think it's certainly the case that employers want to talk to students who are graduating with good degrees from University of Birmingham because they're well trained. And, of course, we're quite a big university. And so when employers come to us, they know they've got a good range of students to look at.
No, Professor, again, delighted to hear that you and the university thinks so deeply about outcomes. That's what we really care about at Leverage as well. We tell students that you can't be thinking about higher education from the perspective of just putting a degree on your wall. You have to be really thinking about where it gets you. Does it put food on the plate at the end of the day? Does it give you a job that you're going to be happy about? Does it essentially launch you into a career that which will essentially see you growing the way you want to over the next decade?
Well, you see, I think it's both. I think students should take a degree because they want to take the degree. But of course, we know, I know, you know, that they invest a lot of time and a lot of money in it. So it isn't just about enjoying it while you're there. It's about where your life is going to go afterwards.
You really balance it out really well. I'm going to take a step back because we have some time and maybe ask you a question that lends into the other hat that you wear in life and talk about, do you see, this is a very interesting year. We were discussing about this before we went live, 2024. We have over 3 dozen economies. We have 3 dozen plus democracies, I would say, going up for elections. We have seen a sector like ourselves, the international education sector, often gets meddled into word politics. Different leaders have different opinions. They want to run their countries in different ways. Do you think, and again, I'm being more hopeful and optimistic as I ask this question as well. Do you think we'll see a day in the future where our sector is free of word politics, is free of all the changes that happen as different elections come and go? Your smile says a lot, but I'll still ask you the question.
And listen, I'd love to say yes, but of course, everywhere is, everything is political, of course, isn't it? What I can absolutely say is that in the UK, there is a broad understanding of the importance of international students for a range of reasons, partly for the economy. Mm-hmm. And the British government has an international education strategy, which is about ensuring we can attract the best students from around the world. But it's partly because we know that our life is enhanced by having people from around the world coming and studying in British universities. And, the diversity and the range you get. So it's in everybody's interest that we do that. I was in, this can sound terrible, I'm name dropping. I was in number 10 Downing Street last week, which is, if you don't know, that's where the British Prime Minister lives, talking to a very senior government official about international students. And he absolutely reaffirmed the commitment to attracting the brightest and the best students from around the world. And I feel very confident about that. And I think, we may have a change of government later in the year. I'm also very confident that if we do, that we will continue to be open for students from around the world in the UK.
So if I may, I should take away the conclusion from what you just said that UK is furthest ahead in terms of separating out its politics from its international education strategy. It's doing a better job as compared to the US and Canada and Australia and all other big destinations that emerging economy students look at.
I'd like to think so. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I'd like to think so.
No, I would like to think so too. And thank you for answering that. Professor, maybe this is just the last one, and I'm going to come back to University of Birmingham. To any of the prospective students from Birmingham who are watching this right now, any message? We've spoken about that it's a green school in some sense. We've spoken about accommodation. We've spoken about the focus on outcomes. We've spoken about the focus on students being able to study what they really want, and that leading into what they can kind of get to after that. Any other aspect of why they should choose Birmingham as a destination and they should be at University of Birmingham that you would like to speak about?
I mean, I could speak for half an hour, but we haven't got the time. And listen, it is a genuinely great university. I really love it. We're well ranked and improving in the league tables. But the most important thing is you get a great education in a very vibrant, exciting city. Particularly for students from India, Birmingham has a large Indian diaspora. So it's not the same as living in an Indian city, but you can get great food. You can feel at home. You can feel comfortable. It's hard to think of a better place to be than University of Birmingham.
That I know that came from no bias. I'm going to ask you one last question, which I really think about. Professor, when most UK universities came up, and I'm a university hobbyist, I like to read about university histories. Some of them came up almost in the last millennium. Some of them came up at the beginning of this millennium. Your university is a few centuries old as well. They came up with a certain charter. One of those charters was that there are many people of many different kinds who live near this town. We want to be inclusive. They spoke about we want to make sure there is one standard benchmark of education so that everybody gets a job at the end of it. There was the fact that we want to build university towns. That was more prevalent in the UK. We want to make sure that everybody in the town gets a job in this university and is able to build a life for themselves around this university. And when I visit so many of these universities, which we do for a living at Leverage, we see that these charters have largely remained the same over the last 200, 400, 600, 800 years. Do you think this charter around what universities, because universities are also facing this, if so I may say, they're adapting well, but if I may say existential crisis as the people think about what the future of education should be. Do you think our universities also need to think about what they really stand for? And I'm by way of answering this, you are kind of representing all the universities all over the world.
Well, I think we do. I mean, the laziest thing that people say is university's been here for 800 years, and therefore they'll be here for another 800 years. That it may be true that you've got universities, but it doesn't mean that your university is going to be there for 800 years. So, we constantly have to make sure that we serve the stakeholders that we've got, and the stakeholders are many. We've got amazing research. But governments matter. Our students matter. Our local population matters. So we constantly think about what that looks like. And we were founded as a university for the city of Birmingham.
Yes.
When Birmingham was at the centre of the world economy. What's really interesting now is that Birmingham the city of Birmingham has a population which is now minority white British. And we almost speak for the world. The population of Birmingham is almost like a microcosm of the entire world. And that means that we can look outwards at the same time as looking inwards. So I think it's a really exciting time to be.
No, absolutely. And I've, from my reading of Birmingham's history, one of the largest groups in India is a company called Tata, who do a lot of work in the UK as well. And their founder in the late 1860s used to spend a lot of time in Birmingham and Manchester to learn about the cotton yarns. Yeah. And he would learn what folks in Birmingham were doing and then kind of come back on a ship and try to replicate that back in India as well. And here we have a group which is trying to employ people in both the UK and India. So I think the relationships that people have formed across these two countries have really helped prosper the world. And we hope that will continue to kind of hold steadfast as we move forward into the future as well. Big thank you for being here with us today. Really appreciate this. And we hope that hundreds of Leverage students end up choosing University of Birmingham and having the absolute fantastic time there. And becoming model citizens who can add value to both the UK and India and the rest of the world.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.